The truth is, most people over 50 believe their body is slowing down because of age, that it's natural, that it's inevitable, that one day you wake up and your body simply doesn't work the same way anymore. But what if the real reason has nothing to do with getting older? And what if it has everything to do with when the body starts moving each morning? For years, I kept hearing the same sentences from patients over 50. Some were spoken out loud, others were whispered, as if admitting them was a form of shame. "Doctor, I barely eat anything anymore, but my belly keeps growing. I wake up exhausted. I can't sleep properly. I don't recognize myself anymore. My head is always heavy. I can't concentrate the way I used to. I've lost my motivation for everything." And then, in an even quieter voice, something that very few people have the courage to put into words, "My desire just disappeared, and I don't know how to bring it back." I heard this hundreds of times, from women, from men, from people who were doing everything right, eating carefully, avoiding excess, trying to sleep, and still feeling like their body was moving in a direction they never chose. But there was a different group, a small but consistent group of adults over 50 who simply didn't fit that pattern. Their energy was steadier, their minds sharper, their bodies lighter. Not perfect, not athletic, just more alive, more present, more whole. And when I began observing what they had in common, one thing kept appearing, almost like a secret hidden in plain sight. They walked before breakfast, not after coffee, not after eating, not after checking their phone, answering messages, or finishing the first meeting of the day. Before everything. At first, it sounded too simple to matter. But the more researchers began studying metabolic health and aging, the clearer something became. The human body behaves very differently during the first hours of the morning, especially after 50. Because when you wake up after a night of natural fasting, your insulin levels are at the lowest point of the day. And during this small biological window, the body becomes far more willing to use stored energy from fat, instead of relying on recently consumed food, especially visceral fat, that deeper fat that accumulates around the abdominal organs and is directly linked to chronic inflammation, insulin resistance, fragmented sleep, hormonal decline, and even accelerated cognitive aging. Most people never realize this process is happening inside them. They only notice the symptoms: the pants fitting tighter every year, the exhaustion after simple tasks, the restless nights, the loss of drive, the feeling that the metabolism has somehow shut down and that there is no button to turn it back on. But what doctors specializing in metabolic aging have observed is that walking before breakfast may act like a signal, almost a message sent directly to the body, an instruction to switch energy systems in a completely different way. And after 50, that matters more than most people realize. Because aging doesn't just change appearance, it changes the mitochondria. Mitochondria are tiny structures inside cells responsible for producing energy. Every movement you make, every thought you have, every heartbeat, all of it depends on them working well. Science has clearly demonstrated that mitochondrial efficiency tends to decline with age, and this affects everything: fat burning, mental clarity, physical stamina, and the ability to recover. But here is where things become fascinating. Morning fasted. Walking appears to stimulate what many experts call mitochondrial reprogramming. In simple terms, the body begins becoming more efficient at creating and using energy again, not overnight, not magically, but gradually, consistently, almost like waking up systems that had fallen dormant. And this effect doesn't stop at weight. It reaches the brain. Studies observing older adults have shown that regular morning movement improves circulation to the brain, supports oxygen delivery to neurons, and may help preserve cognitive function over time. Many people report something unexpected after just a few weeks: clearer thinking, sharper focus, less mental fog, the feeling that their mind has started working properly again. And then comes the part that almost nobody connects: sleep, because poor sleep and abdominal fat are deeply connected in ways most adults have never heard clearly explained. When sleep quality drops, cortisol, The body's stress hormone tends to rise. Elevated cortisol stimulates fat storage around the abdomen. More abdominal fat increases inflammation. More inflammation disrupts hormones even further, and suddenly, the body becomes trapped in a cycle that feels impossible to break. Many people assume this cycle is simply aging. But what if the body is actually responding to signals it was never designed to receive? Late-night eating, constant stress, sedentary mornings, excess artificial light, impaired circulation. These patterns slowly push the body further away from the rhythms that once regulated metabolism naturally. That's why something as simple as walking before breakfast can create such a surprising shift. Not because it's extreme, because it's biological. During those early morning walks, blood flow improves. Muscles activate gently. Stress hormones stabilize more naturally. And over time, insulin sensitivity can improve, which means the body becomes more efficient at using glucose instead of constantly storing it as fat. Now I need to talk about something that is rarely discussed openly: desire. Many women over 50, especially during and after menopause, experience a quiet decline in desire, motivation, emotional connection, and vital energy. And most never understand how closely these issues are linked to circulation, inflammation, sleep quality, and metabolic health. The body is interconnected in ways that conventional medicine rarely explains clearly. When circulation improves, when sleep stabilizes, when inflammation decreases, when energy production becomes more efficient, hormonal balance often begins shifting too. Slowly, naturally, the body starts responding differently. Not because someone found a miracle pill, but because the fundamental biological systems finally received the right signals again. And what surprised many doctors observing these patterns was how small the changes actually were. Not intense workouts, not exhausting routines, just consistent movement during a very strategic moment of the day. That's why so many adults over 50 who begin walking before breakfast describe the same sequence of changes. First, they sleep a little deeper. Then they wake up with slightly more energy. Cravings begin decreasing. The belly slowly softens. The mood improves. Motivation returns. The mind feels lighter. Some even report feeling emotionally younger, because the body stopped feeling constantly heavy and inflamed. Of course, this is not a magic solution. No honest doctor would ever say that. But science is increasingly showing that timing matters more than people think. And for adults over 50, the morning may be one of the most biologically powerful windows of the entire day. Specialists point to 5 major benefits linked to fasted morning walking in older adults: improved mitochondrial function, accelerated visceral fat burning, support against sarcopenia, the age-related loss of muscle mass, protection of cognitive health, and restoration of insulin sensitivity. All interconnected, all deeply tied to how the body manages energy after decades of accumulated stress and metabolic slowdown. And maybe the most important realization of all is that the body is not broken. Many people over 50 have simply spent years disconnected from the rhythms their biology still remembers. That's why so many are shocked when simple habits begin changing things they thought were permanent. But there is something that goes beyond morning movement alone. Especially for women who are in menopause or postmenopause, the body faces profound hormonal changes that go far beyond what a walk alone can address. The drop in estrogen, the hot flashes, the shift in sleep patterns, the redistribution of body fat, the changes in bone and muscle metabolism. These are real, measurable processes that deserve specific attention. And that is exactly why we left the link in the first pinned comment. For a method that has been helping women over 50 address these very challenges, combining metabolic adjustment, natural hormonal support, and sleep restoration in an integrated way. It isn't a radical diet. It isn't an empty promise. It is an approach built on how the female body actually works after menopause, and how it can be supported to respond better, even after years of imbalance. If you have been waking up tired, watching your belly grow without clear reason, losing your desire, or simply stopped recognizing yourself in the mirror, That link was made for you. Click the first pinned comment right now. The method is explained there in detail, and many women describe the experience as finally finding what they had been searching for years. What makes all of this even more powerful is consistency, because every morning walk becomes another signal, another reminder to the body that movement, circulation, energy production, and recovery still matter, and over time, those signals compound. Doctors studying healthy aging often notice that the adults who maintain mobility, mental clarity, and healthier body composition are rarely the ones relying on extreme methods. More often, they are the ones who aligned small habits with biology consistently over years. And that changes the conversation completely, because this stops being about fighting age and starts becoming about understanding the body again. There is also growing interest in how morning movement affects muscle preservation after 50. Many adults lose muscle slowly without noticing, and when muscle decreases, metabolism slows even further, making fat accumulation easier and energy levels lower. But gentle morning walking helps activate muscles daily without overwhelming the body. Combined with proper nutrition and quality recovery, it may support healthier aging in a way that feels sustainable, rather than punishing. And perhaps that is why so many people describe these changes emotionally rather than physically. They don't just say they lost weight. They say they feel awake again, present again, alive again. Because when sleep improves, when energy stabilizes, when inflammation decreases, life itself starts feeling different. Conversations feel easier, motivation returns, confidence slowly rebuilds, and many realize something profound. The body was never asking for perfection. It was asking for rhythm. If you have been struggling with insomnia, low libido, stubborn belly fat, or constant fatigue after 50, if you have felt disconnected from who you were before, if you have wondered whether change is still possible, the answer is yes. The body does not stop listening after 50. It simply responds to what we repeatedly teach it every single day. Tomorrow morning, before the coffee, before breakfast, before the noise of the world begins, consider taking a walk, not to punish your body, but to remind it how to work with you again. And if you want to go further, if you want to understand how women over 50 are accelerating abdominal fat loss, improving sleep, and restoring physical energy and desire through simple morning habits combined with natural hormonal support, the link is in the first pinned comment. It explains the complete method, how these small adjustments may help reactivate the natural metabolic processes that often slow down after menopause, and why so many women describe the results not as a diet, but as a reunion with themselves. Click now. It is waiting for you. If this message helped you see your health differently, subscribe to the channel and stay with us, because there are still countless hidden connections between aging, metabolism, sleep, hormones, and energy that most people were never taught. And the next video may completely change the way you understand your body after 50.